Kyle like, that was an awkward jump ball. I didn't even get a chance.
Kyle has 5 inches of height on turnage, but she loses the jump ball to one of 4 seniors honored pregame today for the Yellow Jackets, who start with possession.
Well, I think it just goes to Turnage's athleticism. She can jump with the best of them, even at 6'1".
Talayah Walker, leading scorer for the Yellow Jackets at over 16 points a game. Walker tries her luck on the first 3 and hits it to start the contest.
And it's like she's been itching all day long to get on the court. We saw her on the floor for the seniors getting honored before the game, but I think she's been ready to play this one.
She's still got a couple years of eligibility, came over after 1 year with Penn State. She's been the shining force offensively for the Yellow Jackets. As you see, a first touch for Rashea Kyle, and they're going the other way.
And that's unfortunate, because that is the player that Miami does not want to get in foul trouble early in this one. And you see Miami doing exactly what they want to do, get post touches to Kyle, but that hand gets extended. She gets called for the offensive foul against Turnus.
And we see an early press here from Miami, something they've implemented more and more over the last 2 weeks as part of this 4-game winning streak.
Oh, this is definitely, and it's worked for them because it's caused turnovers and allowed them to get some points.
Could lead to an easy bucket, though, for the Yellow Jackets as Foster finishes.
And that's the way you break a press. You try and pass out of it. Great decision by Moon to take that one dribble, bullet pass right down to Foster in the paint.
After Georgia Tech had turned it over 20-plus times in each of the last 2 games. No surprise to see that press early.
Yeah.
But the Yellow Jackets turned it into a clinic.
And that's what you have to do. You have to work on it. I mean, they've played some stiff competition the last couple of games.
No changes on the starting 5 for the Yellow Jackets. It's been the same 5 since around Christmas. A couple of seniors in there with Foster and Turnage. Moon off the square and down. First 7 to the Jackets.
And that's good to see Moon getting it going early offensively, being aggressive, getting to her spot, and the bank was open early in this one.
Amarachi Kimpson recorrals, gets it down low, and there's Kyle with the first 2 for the Canes.
And that's a nice pass. You can see these guards for Miami. They're going to be intentional and trying to get the ball inside. They know where their bread is buttered, getting that ball to Kyle in the middle.
Last time out, a 79-58 win at home against Pittsburgh, in which Miami had 50 points in the paint.
Anytime you can get that many points in the paint, it's showing a good sign for victory.
They get it down low again for Kyle. She's fouled before she could turn and shoot.
And Thomas Harris just a little too late, didn't get positioning behind Kyle, and Kyle took advantage, able to draw that foul.
If you're gonna score 36 like Rashea Kyle did on Thursday, you gotta get some good positioning down low. That's one of her strong suits.
She does. At 6'6", she knows how to move well, or at least to get open.
Nobody open there. Gal Raviv couldn't get it in.
And that's a 5-second call. You gotta applaud Georgia Tech's defense. That was the reason that Miami got that 5-second call. They were all over Kyle in the paint, really cluttering her and not allowing her to get open to get the basketball.
You see second-year head coach Tricia Cullup in the ear of the officials early. Slip down low, Walker cutting back door.
And that's something Coach Blair talked about. You know, I don't think Turnage gets a lot of credit of how great of a passer she's been for Georgia Tech this season.
Kimpson, the response. Amarachi Kimpson, junior out of Little Elm, Texas, came over after 2 years at UNLV. A lot of reinforcements in the offseason for Tricia Cullup and this Hurricanes team. They brought in a top 10 freshman class and a top 25 transfer class.
She was intentional after that first season. Great cut.
Walker again.
She's just active early in this one, making it easy for herself, not having to create or take tough shots, but just cutting to the basket, and her teammates are finding her early.
Most of it's been off the ball for Talayah Walker. Put back for Kyle. Another transfer came in, spent 2 years at Tricia Cullup's alma mater to start at Purdue, and then 3 years with Florida. Final season with the Hurricanes. Wetzel, one more pass, and the quick pull-up for Kimpson. Can't fall. Offensive board, reload for Raviv. Turnage there to clean it up. Walker feeling it. Why not?
And you got to guard that. You know that's on the scouting report. That was a simple handoff by Turnage to open Walker at the top of the key, and no defender in sight by Miami.
Talayah Walker with 10 of the first 14 for Georgia Tech. She's put Miami in a deep hole early. Raviv tries to answer. Second chance thanks to Wetzel. Gal Raviv spent her first season at Quinnipiac, native of Israel, pulls up free throw line, gets it to go.
And that's interesting. You know, we talked to Coach Culler before the game, and she said that Raviv, before she came here last season, she dropped a nice 25 against them. So she was definitely on their radar once she entered the transfer portal and has been sensational for this squad ever since.
Sometimes you can recruit against your opposition in the middle of seasons.
Well, you know, if it's a player that burns you when you play against them, you would rather have them on your squad than to play against them.
Raviv was the former MAAC Player of the Year. It was going to be tough to keep her in the mid-major level. You see Talayah Walker, also a transfer, came over from Penn State.
And Walker has been sensational as well for Georgia Tech. When you see where her scoring averages as a sophomore compared to what she did a season ago at Penn State, you see the growth, maturity, just to be a sophomore.
Raviv with the left hand, and speaking to that with Walker, it's a lot easier to score when you have 3 or 4 options like Miami with 3 double-digit scorers on the season. Talayah Walker's the only in double figures consistently for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, a lot of weight on her shoulders, but she has withstood the challenge this season and has been one thing, if anything, consistent.
It's been the Talayah Walker show so far for Georgia Tech. Miami trails by 4 early and 10 from Talayah Walker.
Enjoy a Coca-Cola. Let's go on. It's time now for the post-up. Overhead yours. So here's what you're going to do. Let's go. Stand before
highlighted on the scouting report if you're Miami, and they haven't been able to slow her down so far. 4 of 4 from the field.
No, she's been finding her shots or finding her spacing and just not forcing it early in this game.
She'll try another one and hit another one.
Well, sometimes you might just be on fire because that was just a simple step pass back and she was able to knock down a 3. Miami defender was right there with a hand up.
No answer from Victoria Blazig. Moon tries to push the pace for Georgia Tech. Alben springs for 3, bricked it. You'd have to imagine you want the ball at least to touch the hands of Talayah Walker every time down the court right now if you're Georgia Tech.
Well, you don't want to force it. Find it in great spacing. You know, like if she's cutting and she's open, but if she has the ball and able to make a move, she is hot right now, so you want to give her some touches.
Kimson can't get the tumble. Turnage pushes. Termes. Offside iron.
Well, she did hit 2 threes her last game, so that is a shot that she's capable of knocking down.
Georgia Tech comes into today shooting at 27% from 3. That's dead last in the ACC, and they are not lacking confidence from distance so far. Already tried 7 and knocked down 3 from behind the arc. Blazig off back iron. Shots are not falling early on for the Canes. Kat Alben, 1-on-2 with the Euro.
Wow. That just shows that speed and quickness. Great athleticism by Alben. Splits 2 defenders to get that ball high up the glass for the easy lay-in.
Georgia Tech's shooting it a scorching 62% from the floor to start.
Yeah, they are hot right now, and I think it's just been from great penetration. Besides the threes we've seen by Walker, not a lot of outside shots.
Extra step from Blazic, and it feels like Miami is just sped up a little right now.
And you know she's going to outrun the entire team. She's so lightning quick, like a cat. You know, they call her Cat Alben for a reason, and she gets that lay-in.
She's poised to show off on senior day. Transferred back from Charleston Southern after she started Grayson High School just down the road. Turnage skips it. Alben thought about it. With 9, she sneaks inside, kicks for another. Termes 3. Too strong.
Yeah, and that was very fortunate for Cat Alben. She went a little too deep, missed on that 3 when she should have shot it, decided to penetrate.
Walker wants to run. Takes it herself, and she's walled off by Kyle.
That was great defense by Kyle, especially with the quicker Walker against her, but she used that height to her advantage, able to get that block.
And already playing on the one early offensive foul, Rashea Kyle. She backs her way in against a triple team, and she has it ripped away.
Guess that was just payback on the other end.
Walker ahead, Moon. Oh, that would have been sweet. But how about Cal Alben on the tip back? Timeout, Miami.
Just shows that athleticism in the backcourt for Georgia Tech, but great momentum and a great job by Alben to follow that shot after it was a miss, get that offensive board and put back.
I'm not sure which would have been sweeter, if Moon finished that or the tip back from Alben. Georgia Tech trying to finish this first season under head coach Karen Blair in style. After a tough non-conference, they've really battled, exceeded expectations in conference play. They can get themselves all the way up to possibly a 10 seed in the conference tournament with a win today.
Yeah, especially with the transfers, the newcomers, 10 newcomers on this Georgia Tech club that Coach Blair has had to work with. And you see what they've done in the ACC. You know, preseason pick 15th, currently sitting at 12th, but you said it, could get as high as 10th if they could solidify a win this afternoon.
Jackets go to a zone look out of the timeout. And take it away.
Good deflection, good hands by Walker in that zone defense.
What does that zone do to offenses right out of the timeout?
Well, it makes you have to think of what you want to do offensively, especially when you're coming out.
No thinking if you're Talayah Walker right now.
I mean,
she's unconscious.
She's just letting it fly. And so far, has only missed 1 shot, but 6 of 7 from the field and perfect from behind the three-point line at 4-4.
The range is just continuing to go further and further.
Another steal for Georgia Tech. They're getting hands.
2-on-1.
Paint.
Walker through contact, got the finish. Of course she did.
And there wasn't much Raviv could do about that except foul Walker. Great recognition to drive it. Good finish at the rim.
Miami searching for any answers. Largest lead here in the first quarter at 16 for the Jackets.
You see the Jackets in this 2-3 zone. Kind of looking like a mixed 3-2.
Wetzel slices right through it.
That was a great job by Wetzel. You know, that's the way to break a zone. Pass through it, but you got to make cuts. Show the numbers so your teammates can pass you the ball.
Much needed bucket for the Canes, but the Yellow Jackets can hold for the final shot here in a first quarter that they have dominated since the start. Moon with 5. Erica Moon swings it. Termes a 3, can't cap off quite the first 10 minutes. of this first quarter.
About who they will play come Wednesday, but we know for sure, regardless win or lose, they're going to be playing on Wednesday.
Right now, Talayah Walker is outscoring Miami herself 18-12, and the Yellow Jackets with a 14-point lead on the Hurricanes after that first quarter.
Yeah, no, Walker was lights out in that first quarter, 18 points as you stated, which is incredible, but just shows how she can score the basketball in bunches, and that's something that she has been incredible at, especially during ACC play this season.
For Miami, more concerns on the offensive or the defensive side of the ball so far?
I think the offensive end. The only one who's been killing them is Talayah Walker. She has 18 of Georgia Tech's 26 points. So if you can find a way to slow her down, I mean, you can't be on fire the entire game, but I won't talk too soon. But defensively, they haven't been bad. They just can't score the basketball.
Turnage locates the paint and an easy flip shot for two.
Now, that wasn't great defense. That's something they definitely need to control. And that was one of the keys for Miami. They need to contain the paint. That was too easy for Turnage to get that lay-in.
Walker, another takeaway. These might be her easiest 2 points of the afternoon.
Probably so, and just another layup. You know, she's been perfect from behind the arc, but also has exploited Miami when she's able to cut or drive to the lane.
Already 2 30-plus point games on the season for Talayah Walker, and she's 2/3 of the way there. We've only played 11 minutes in this game.
And that was a great box out by Walker against Kyle, making sure she couldn't get that board.
Ahnay Adams, the takeaway from Miami. Kyle directing traffic, hands off, Raviv.
And right now, Georgia Tech just making it difficult, clogging the lane, but that was a big-time shot. Good finish by Adams with the three.
Needed that one. Alben off balance, tough shot, couldn't finish. Miami a chance to string a couple buckets here together. Searching for any kind of momentum.
Three seconds, 5 seconds. Wow. They have to start counting. That's a little too close, but good defense by Georgia Tech. They're making Miami so confused in their offensive sets. They don't know what to do in passing the basketball. And I think with their defense, they have really pushed Miami out further away from the basket. And that's what's making it difficult for them to get the ball inside or to find a good shot.
Alben got off balance, had to just fling it straight into the hands of Wetzel. And she can't hit from 5 feet.
And Alben was fortunate that Miami was not able to capitalize on that turnover, but that's one thing. Never pick up your dribble or lose your balance when you're trying to make a pass. Always be in triple threat.
Alben again on the step back swish.
Well, that's the way to recover. Knock down a jump shot after you have a turnover. And Alben's been incredible for this Georgia Tech club when we talk about senior day and these 4 seniors that were honored before the game.
Kat Alben never lacking confidence.
No, not since she's gotten on the flat. She has had all the confidence in the world. And I think it was just Coach Blair, you know, trying to get her to slow down, but shows her maturity coming in as the spark plug for Georgia Tech off the bench, being able to score and defend using her quickness.
There she goes again, couldn't get the high finish. But she takes it right back, and she left it short. But it's quite the full circle moment today for Kat Alben. Grew up, we said, starring at Grayson High School, came to games here as a young fan with her mom, and now her whole family out there with her for senior day before the game today. Stays with Miami as Kyle got into a long battle down low.
She is, and you can tell she's getting frustrated because she's having to work down there. It's exactly what Coach Cullup said today at shoot-around, that they were going to, Georgia Tech was going to clog the lane, make it difficult, and she's trying to fight, but you got Walker right there. The arms get a little tied up, but Georgia Tech is swarming around her as soon as she touches the basketball in the paint.
Coach Cullup called it church.
Church.
They're going to pack it in there into the lane.
A kumbaya moment, and that's exactly what they've been doing early.
She said they'll church us all day, and so far it's been working for Georgia Tech defensively. So has Talayah Walker. Been working on the offensive side. Couldn't get the whistle for a foul, but it will stay with the Jackets.
That was good defense by Wetzel. She kept her arms up, didn't commit a foul, especially with Walker trying to put her in a compromising position to draw it. But good work and a well-deserved break for Walker on the bench.
She earned that one. I wouldn't imagine she'll be there long, though. Get her a quick breather before the media timeout. Moon back, Termes three, yes.
And you see the smile on her face. That's big for Termes. You know, it's something she struggled with all season long, and knocking down that three-point shot in the last couple of games, she's starting to see that shot go down a little bit more.
It's been a struggle all season long for Georgia Tech, but it feels like it's a real confidence thing. When a couple fall early, then things seem to go the Jackets' way.
Right.
That's a big answer three on the other side from Danielle Osho.
And she's a local from Decula, Georgia. Definitely has a lot of family members and teammates in attendance.
Here is Osho as she backs it out. Product of Hebron Christian Academy, two-time state champ. Part of that top 10 freshman recruiting class this season, down to Miami. Right-handed finish from Kimpson.
And Kimpson has tried to be aggressive. Oh, that's a tough shot. I mean, you got 5 Miami players in the paint. Foster decides to shoot that shot. Not all her teammates were down the court, but hey, she must have known it was going to be money.
It is all coming up money so far this afternoon for the Yellow Jackets. Adams on that fadeaway baseline.
Tough shot by Adams.
Miami is hanging in there here in this second quarter, but struggling to piece together stops.
Right, because we said it, you know, besides that bucket we just saw from Foster, Walker had 20 of their 35 points before she knocked down that three.
Samuel, the deep two, offside iron. Clean box out, and here goes Adams.
That was a good decision, but just a little too hard by Adams trying to attack.
Up and down they go, and Kimpson from behind with the poke on Turnage gets it back for the Canes. Raviv still trying to get going. Second leading scorer on the season for Miami. Adams in for Pettigrew. Can't get it to go over the taller 6'6" Termes. And we get a timeout, Georgia Tech. Well, after Georgia Tech got out on the front foot, these two are trading blows here in the second quarter.
Yeah, no, they have been for years. Even with the coaching change, with Coach Blair starting this year, you know, you have to applaud that because she was loyal, stayed consistent with this program, and I'm sure Coach Blair it sucks to see her leave if she decides to go.
Naredo injured after the fourth game of this season, hasn't played since, so she will have an extra year of eligibility if she does decide to return, the senior out of Spain. Tied up in the lane, possession arrow will stay with Georgia Tech, but just 5 to shoot. And you mentioned the other three, Samuel, Turnage, and Alben, all from in and around the Atlanta area, coming back to spend their final collegiate season close to home.
Right, and that's pretty cool. When you have that opportunity, you have to take full advantage, especially with how, you know, players, student athletes are able to transfer to get closer to home in your final season, play in front of your friends and family. It's nothing greater than to have those moments, especially on senior day.
We know Savannah Samuels got upwards of 30 family members in the crowd today. Couldn't fit them all out there on the floor pregame. Second chance for Kimpson, followed her own miss and couldn't hit that one either. Nothing seeming to go the Canes' way. They are shooting at just 38% from the floor in this first half.
Well, they're getting some solid looks, especially that last shot. It was a good look in the paint, just could not knock it down.
Samuel on the step back. On the other side, that rim seemingly huge for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, we'll see at halftime if it repays the favor to Miami, but that rim has been very, nice to Georgia Tech in the first half. They've been knocking down shots and shooting it at a high clip at 55% in the first half.
Osho trying to get it in for Kyle. Down the lane, Osho walled off, couldn't get it up. Miami scoreless over the last 2.5 minutes. They've seen the lead for Georgia Tech balloon back to 16. Walker trying to tack on to her 20-point first half performance. With 5 seconds in the corner for Samuel. She drives baseline and gets fouled.
And that was a great decision. Good passing by Georgia Tech to stay patient, to get a better shot. Great closeout defense from Miami, but Samuel makes the right decision, penetrating as the shot clock was winding down, and gets the foul on Osho at the basket.
That is just the 3rd foul on either team in this first half, and we have the first free throws of the game as Samuel hits the front end.
And that's interesting. We have 1:18 left in this first half, and no fouls have been called. So you could tell the refs have been letting these two teams just get after it. Been clean basketball thus far.
They've been playing at a pretty exhaustive pace so far, too.
They have been playing at a high clip. The speed, the pace of the game has been fast for both of these teams, but early in this one, Georgia Tech's just been more successful on the offensive end.
Adams and Kyle off back rim. And now Georgia Tech a chance to make it the largest lead of this first half. Couple possessions left in this first half. A half dominated by the Yellow Jackets from start to finish. You see the frustration boiling over for Kyle.
Yeah, she's frustrated. Even on that last possession, good defense by Georgia Tech, forcing her to take an outside jump shot. And we saw that so far she was perfect from the field besides that last shot. But she hadn't been getting the touches, getting frustrated, and then picking up a second foul, now having to go sit.
4 points and 5 rebounds in this first half for Rashea Kyle, but a much different pace than when she went for 36 and 13 on Thursday.
Yeah, and you talk about, the level of competition. That was a solid win on that 4-game winning streak for Miami, and with that last win they had against Pitt. But Georgia Tech has some better post players down low that can defend and work with Kyle in the paint.
That certainly does not help Miami's case. Samuel from the logo, and she gets fouled.
And I don't even know why you would commit that foul if you're Miami. Samuel on the scouting report, we know she can knock down threes if needed. But right here on the logo, Osho makes a bad decision. She should have just left that shot. It looked like it may have been short anyway, but now you got Samuel going to the line for 3.
And the second personal foul on Danielle Osho as well. So she and Kyle on the bench with 2, and Samuel, about an 80% free throw shooter, hits the first. Nothing going right so far in this first half for Miami. I don't even know where you look to at halftime.
Well, I think slowing it down. The pace offensively, they have not gotten the shots they probably want to get in the paint. And it starts with getting Kyle more touches. She's only attempted 3 shots in this first half, and that shouldn't happen, especially from your leading scorer. She should be averaging anywhere between 10 to 15 shots a game.
No deflection called. So a backcourt violation on Blazig, who is real confused by that call. Head scratching first half for Trisha Cullip's Miami Hurricanes.
With the handoff. That was kind of tough to see on that angle of whether Samuel touched it.
Seven to shoot, and a bailout foul there as Georgia Tech gets into the lane. And now they'll reset that shot clock, and the Yellow Jackets will be able to hold for pretty much the final shot of this first half, up by 21 against a Miami team that came in red hot on a 4-game winning streak.
And you see, both these teams balance with the shooting. Miami has 32 shots in this first half. Georgia Tech has 31. It's just Miami's only knocked down 11 to Georgia Tech's 17. So when you see the differences, the shots have been there for Miami. They're just not falling.
to be happy about if you're Karen Blair headed into the break. Again, the Yellow Jackets can hold for the final shot if they want, but they elect not to. And now 10 seconds to work with. Raviv with 5.
Good
And
defense
she
by
lost
Walker.
it off of Walker, so it stays with Miami 3.1.
And it talks to what Coach Blair said at the beginning of the season. She's worked on her game offensively and defensively, getting stronger. And it's a testament when you see the type of player she's been this season for Georgia Tech.
Raviv has to launch it. Left it short. And at the break, Georgia Tech with its largest lead of the game, up by 21.
Yeah, that's been an impressive start for Georgia Tech.
Right.
Well, I mean, defensively, they haven't been horrible. Georgia Tech has just really shot the basketball, and a lot of that goes to Talayah Walker. But if they can calm down and find something within their offensive sets, it's going to start with trying to get some touches in the paint and some flow within the offense with movement.
And remember, this is a Miami team. As Adams takes the first shot of the second half, they'll get a second look thanks to Rashea Kyle. They're on the outside looking in of the NCAA tournament, and so you have to imagine that at 16-12, they need a win today and at least a couple of wins later this week up in Duluth at the ACC tournament to have a chance at an at-large bid. And you don't win today, basically all hope is lost. You got to win the ACC tournament to make the big dance.
Yeah, and I think right now with this team that Coach Cullip has, I mean, that'll be incredible if they can get into the NCAA tournament. But, you know, with the advantage, I think they just want to take it one game at a time. And right now they're in a hole down 20. See if they can dig themselves out of this one and get a road victory.
Getting to the free throw line is a good start. They didn't do that once in the first half, and Gal Raviv hits the first 2 points of the second half for the Canes.
Yeah, it was because they had movement, a nice cut, and it was even a better pass by Kyle to allow Raviv to draw that foul.
Walker on the pump fake, couldn't hit from a long 2. Miami trying to string a couple together here to start the second half. On Thursday, they came out of the locker room a 12-0 run in the third quarter to begin against Pitt. Raviv from distance. Left it short, barely grazed the iron. Put back rejected by Turnage.
That's the type of defense Turnage can give you, because that was a great offensive rebound by Adams.
And Erica Moon pays it off with the and one.
And, you know, it's something we don't see from her too often, but she is a shifty guard. And, you know, once she focuses and makes the determination that she wants to take it to the basket, all things are a go for Erica Moon. And she drives it hard, gets the contact, great body control, and a nice finish against Raviv.
Turnage averaging a block and a half a game. Moon at the stripe adds the third. Georgia Tech back up by 22. Felt like Miami could get a little momentum at least there, and the block totally turned things around. As Kyle on the scoop through, couldn't get the roll. It has been that kind of afternoon so far.
We talked about them switching baskets. It seems like the same things are occurring on the opposite end, but a great reverse layup and cut by Foster.
Just like that, it's back to a 24-point advantage for Georgia Tech. Largest of the day. Kimpson from deep. Couldn't get it to go, and Turnage there.
And that's what you're seeing. It's some touches you see mainly from Kyle in the paint, but a lot of outside shots. Miami settling for threes right now, trying to dig themselves out of this hole.
Moon. Man, it is all Georgia Tech.
And that's going to be a problem. If Erica Moon is knocking down shots, it's going to continue to be a long afternoon for Miami.
Early timeout to start the third quarter for Miami. It has already been a long afternoon for this Hurricanes team, and it just keeps getting longer. Yellow Jackets in front by 2.
That first half.
You see 3 of the key transfers in for first-year head coach Karen Blair, and they've all exceeded expectations, drastically improved their outputs. Another takeaway for the Yellow Jackets. Talayah Walker put back good.
That was like a volleyball set. She's able to get the lay-in after her own miss, staying with it.
Turnovers was the big story coming into it because Georgia Tech had lost 2 straight, had turned it over 20-plus times in each of those 2 games, and they have been the team taking it away from the Canes throughout the course of the afternoon.
They have, and when you've seen the number of turnovers that Miami has had in this game thus far, And Georgia Tech being able to capitalize on these 11 turnovers in the first half with, you know, points off of them. 15 points off of Miami's 11 turnovers in this game.
Walker finally missed one from 3. 4 of 5 now on the afternoon from behind the arc.
Yeah, and to go to your point, Georgia Tech taking care of the basketball on the turnovers after the catastrophic 2 games and the number of turnovers they have had in the last 2, around 49 turnovers in those last 2 losses.
When we talked this morning with Coach Blair at shoot-around, she was saying she was just pleading with their team. It doesn't need to be single digits, right?
Right.
Just can we get it down to like 15, please?
Right.
It
And
seems
that's what
like
it
they're
is.
gonna. It seems like they're gonna do that today.
Yeah, they're at a good pace right now, still staying with the 6, but just limiting the turnovers. Not expecting anybody to play a perfect game, but you cannot have in the upward of 18 to 20 turnovers a game and expect to get a victory. Not in the ACC.
Two at the stripe for Foster. She hits the front end. Pretty good free throw shooting team for Georgia Tech, up around 73%. If they could just bottle this up and take it with them 30 minutes up the road to Duluth later this week, they might be in for a couple more wins at the ACC tournament.
Well, this is what you want to see. You want your team having momentum going to the tournament. You don't want to come into a loss or have a loss going into the tournament because that totally messes up momentum, and especially on the street. It's a good lay-in, good pass by Kyle, but basically on the street that Miami's been on, they want to keep up the momentum.
I mentioned 50 paint points on Thursday for Pitt. That number trimmed drastically. It's been Georgia Tech dominating inside, and 2 more, plus the foul for Talayah Walker.
And it's because Georgia Tech's been clogging the paint, but it's just a good read. No defense, nobody stepping up for Miami to even stop Walker. Good shield off by Foster, but that was just a wide open layup. And of all players, you do not want to give Talayah Walker a wide open layup because she's going to capitalize just like she did on that last play.
Can't add the free throw, stays put at 24 points to lead all scorers. It's been a close battle on the scoreboard between Talayah Walker against Miami this afternoon.
It has, and we said it, that she's trying to get her third 30-piece of the season, already with 2, and both in ACC play.
Would be just the second ACC player to do that, joining forces with possible ACC Player of the Year, Ahnay Adams.
And that's high praise to be in the same discussion as a Ahnay Adams. We know what type of numbers she's put up this season and has done her first 3 seasons in college basketball.
Good company. Raviv couldn't finish, getting downhill, goes back to Georgia Tech.
Substitution number 32, Thomas Harris.
Obviously, for the Yellow Jackets, they've hit a lot of shots, right? And that helps, but some of it has to go to shot quality too, right? And what they've done offensively today to set up open looks.
Yeah, it's been times that Miami's defense has been pretty solid. Like right now they're in the zone trying to see if they can create a steal or a turnover, but for the most part, it's been open looks in the lane for Georgia Tech, and you can't give them that.
Ooh, Thomas Harris behind the back. Oh, that would have gotten the crowd to its feet.
Especially at her size, and we know she's a capable scorer when she has her opportunities.
Raviv off front iron. Thomas Harris there for the board, and she secures.
And that's deep, and you see Miami settling. That was a shot that I'm sure Coach Cullop that wasn't a shot she wanted within their offense, and it shows even more how Georgia Tech's defense has pushed Miami even further out, so they have to take difficult 3-point shots like Raviv just did.
And it just feels like it's been all forced, especially from 3 this afternoon from Miami. And it started from the first whistle, right? 7 straight points to start for Georgia Tech, and Miami's been on its back foot ever since.
Sure, and then when you see the scoreboard and down 21 points, you feel like you got to play catch up, right? So some of these shots, not the best options within Miami's offense, but they see time is ticking and they want to get some quality shots up.
Altogether, a 14-2 run right now for Georgia Tech. Walker trying to add on, and she's body bumped away, foul on the floor.
And Walker has the advantage against these guards for Miami. They're smaller in stature. Walker has the size advantage. And we see on that last play, she was taking full advantage, trying to post up in the paint.
Not been their afternoon. Coach Cullup is thankful, though, to the ACC schedulers. They get to stick around in Atlanta for a few days. Don't have to travel anywhere for the ACC tournament. Coming up, new location this year, just up the road, Gas South Arena in Duluth.
Yeah, that's a lot when you can cut down on your travel and, you know, especially whatever happens in the outcome of this game, gives them time to watch game film, you know, have some good quality practices before getting started on Wednesday, which is just a blessed ride up the road.
They'll know later tonight who they will take on Wednesday as Thomas Harris seals off the glass for the Jackets.
And that's something that Thomas Harris can do. She has great hands, great movement as a defender when she gets those opportunities. In the past, has been in a little foul trouble, which has made that difficult, but solid defense on that last possession and even better offense by Alben on that cut.
Backdoor look, senior to senior, turnage over to Alben. Obviously, both these teams will be hoping to make a deep run come ACC tournament play later this week. What's it take usually in your experience playing in those tournaments where you got to play every day if you keep stringing wins together to get things done?
No, you got to be focused and, you know, really having a good rhythm as a team and then taking care of your body because it's back-to-back. You're going to be playing every day, more games than you've played in the regular season when you get your breaks every maybe 4 or 5 days. But you got to be continuous and just be ready to go because you never know what can happen in any game come tournament time.
First bucket of the day for the freshman Soma Okolo.
That's a foul.
Two-car pileup down there between Walker and Raviv.
I think you see that strength of Walker working out in the off season because that was like a WWE power move when they landed on the ground and locked arms. Thank goodness that didn't turn into a situation that would have been worse for either player, but you got Raviv, I think, getting called for that foul on that lockup.
Not too far away from possible hook and hold.
Yeah.
That's the third on Raviv, fourth team foul here in the quarter, so Gal Raviv hits the bench. Rather, fifth team foul, so bonus here the rest of the way in the third quarter for Georgia Tech, and 2 at the line for Talayah Walker. Up to 25 on the day. She had quite the week in early January, Talayah Walker, when she went for 33 in an OT win against Notre Dame, and then 30 at SMU. Trying to get back into 30-plus point territory for the third time this year, as Georgia Tech has more than doubled up Miami here at home, finishing off the regular season in style.
That was a great read by Thomas Harris. She was able to get around Kyle, read that so well as Kyle was trying to post up, gets that deflection. And you just see Georgia Tech a lot quicker with their movement in this game. Miami looking a little sluggish.
Thomas Harris almost hit her first basket of the game. She tries to draw the charge and does. Off ball going the other way. Thomas Harris celebrates it as she stood her ground.
Smart move, way to get back, get her positioning and forcing Kyle to run right into her because she must have read the scouting report. She knows exactly where Kyle was trying to get to the paint so she could get a touch. And instead, Kyle draws or gets another foul.
Still not on the score sheet in the points column, but she's given Georgia Tech some good minutes here. Couple of steals, draws that charge. Handful of rebounds as Talayah Walker goes scooping through for 2.
Great hesitation, especially after that screen that she followed that Thomas Harris set and was able to get that lay-in. That just shows the maturation of Walker's game. That's a move we didn't see her doing early in the season. The hesitation can get you a long way.
Georgia Tech still a runaway train here in the third quarter, outscoring Miami 20-6 since halftime.
That's an incredible number, but we said, you know, we didn't know if Georgia Tech was going to be able to keep up this pace, but they are still shooting the basketball at a high clip, around 50% for the game.
Talayah Walker for 30 points, got it! 31 for Talayah Walker and 5 threes on the afternoon.
And I'm telling you, you see this duo right here between Walker and Turnage. They seem to be great friends, teammates, talking about how nasty she's been, hot off fire all game long. And Talayah Walker's out here like it's her senior day, putting up numbers. We talked about that hesitation, that finish at the basket. But she has been incredible all game long. 3-point shot right there with the finish. good hesitation with the lay-in on this last play. And I'm just telling you, this kid has been lights out all season for the Yellow Jackets.
Snoop Turnage seems a little more excited than Talayah Walker does about what Talayah Walker has done this afternoon.
Yeah, and she skies for that rebound right there. We talk about her athleticism too, but to be able to drop 31 points and shoot 12 of 17 from the field, that's an incredible stat line. I mean, she has been on fire this afternoon, almost near perfect.
Again, teaming up now with Ahnay Hidalgo. Those are the two ACC players with 3 30-plus point games. And Talayah Walker just 2 points shy of matching that career high of 33, which she put up against Ahnay Hidalgo in the OT win earlier this year at home for the Jackets over the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, and when you talk about being able to drop 3 30-point games in ACC play, I think that speaks even more volumes because of the fact that's tougher competition that you're going against day in, day out. You know, you're able to read these scouting reports. These players or teams are very familiar with each other because most may play each other twice a season. But she's been able to put up some big numbers in conference play.
Ahnay Adams trying to split the pair, and she steals the free possible burger from the fans who were getting loud here at McCamish. Adams, one of the many young bright spots for this Miami team. She was the only player who saw minutes on last year's roster to return. Top 40 recruit as Thomas Harris finds her way onto the score sheet.
And right now, Thomas Harris is taking advantage of that Kyle matchup, knowing that Kyle's a little sluggish, brought her out on the perimeter and decides to take her off the dribble, using her foot speed to to score a basket.
Canes go over the top, down low to Kyle, who has 8 points and 6 rebounds. She'll have some work to do in the fourth quarter if she wants to get her 20th double-double of the season. Jackets will hold for the final shot. Perhaps it will be Talayah Walker's to shoot. Around a double screen, Walker gets the double team. Thomas Harris couldn't hit. But still, a 23-6 third quarter for the Yellow Jackets, who lead by 20.
Have 9 teams into the NCAA tournament, so it just speaks to the volume of talent still in this conference. But you know, you want to see if Louisville can possibly move up, Duke, whoever, if one of those teams ends up winning the ACC tournament. And I think an interesting seed is Carolina, you know, especially with the win over Duke this afternoon. That definitely gives them some great momentum going into the ACC tournament, and maybe they can make some noise and possibly win it.
You see a couple of teams that are right squarely on the bubble ahead of this week's ACC tournament. Clemson, Virginia trying to hold their ground. Stanford, Cal, even Miami trying to move up and jump into the bracket, but that's going to be tough to do for the Canes after this result.
And I just think, like, this year, it's no team that's been so dominant in the ACC where you're just like, yeah, they're the front runners, they should win it or win the tournament. It's so many teams that have surprised us this season. You see the likes of Clemson getting a big win against Duke, or, you know, we never know what NC State might be able to do. And I think UNC playing very well to finish out the ACC regular season could make some noise.
And for the longest time, it felt like, okay, class of the ACC is Louisville and it's Duke, but here in the last 2 weeks, it hasn't necessarily felt that way. You mentioned Duke losing to Carolina earlier this afternoon, the Clemson shocking upset, Virginia the win over Louisville. So
Sure.
It's not a for sure shoo-in that, you know, the top 2 seeds are going to be in the ACC championship a week from now.
Right, and it only takes one loss to knock the top seed out and to really, you know, make things muddy the waters a bit to see who could come out of that conference.
2 at the line for Samuel, hits the first. Talayah Walker not on the floor here to start the fourth quarter for Georgia Tech as she's paced the Yellow Jackets with 31 and 8 from Samuel as well off the bench. Raviv, a transition look. She hits it.
And that's something she's capable of doing, really quiet this afternoon, but has that three-point shot.
Was 0 of 5 prior to that one going down from distance. Miami as a team, just 3 of 13 from 3 today. But it has been all about the Yellow Jackets, who have led from start to finish so far as Alben swirls through traffic. Extra pass for Moon, who drives baseline straight to the cup. Couldn't get the roll.
And that's a tough runner to try and knock that down on the baseline. Moon probably should have tried to get that off the glass, but good decision. Doesn't settle for that three-point shot. Instead, drives it in. Fortunately for Georgia Tech, they maintain the possession.
A Georgia Tech team that definitely didn't have super high expectations externally coming into the year. We mentioned picked preseason 15th in the conference, as Alben will go to the line for 2. With a win today, they'll guarantee themselves at worst 11th as their seed come Wednesday. Could be 10th with a Cal loss later this afternoon.
But I think what's been impressive about this Georgia Tech squad all season long, it hasn't been pretty. You know, they've had some tough losses, but at the same time, they have continued to come out and play and perform for Coach Blair. It may not be pretty all the time, but they maintain the high energy, continue to work to get better. And I think that's a reflection of what you're seeing on the court this afternoon against Miami.
And both of these teams near the bottom of the ACC in terms of returning talent. Miami only returned 2 players, Georgia Tech 3. And so it's taken a little while for both teams to really find their groove. And for Georgia Tech, it felt like right around that Christmas break was when things really settled in. It was not the best non-conference. They went 5-7 in the non-con, but they've really battled, right? And they'll likely end 8-10 in ACC play in the regular season. That's pretty good from where things stood around Christmas time.
Yeah, and you got to look at it. You know, Coach Blair had no inkling of that schedule or setting that schedule from a season ago, you know, and how many road games they had to play in the non-conference. So they had a difficult non-conference schedule. But I think it war-tested them so they could be prepared for ACC play. And, you know, they're almost at that 500 mark. So who knows if the non-conference season would have gone differently. They may be one of the teams we could be talking about on the bubble.
Whistle goes against Georgia Tech as Raviv is helped to her feet. For Miami, obviously today not going the way they planned, getting doubled up right now by Georgia Tech. They'll have a couple days, try and wipe this one from their memory. What needs to go differently on Wednesday when they open the ACC tournament?
I think they have to be more aggressive, and they're going to go back and watch the game film, and they have to find a second option, especially because the next opponent they play, they're just going to do what Georgia Tech has done and clog the lane and really go to church in the paint and denying Kyle. So other players have to step up and find ways to score when they can't get Kyle going and get her touches.
Third chance goes down for Candace Pettigrew for Miami, and Alben races it the other way, couldn't get the finish. She commits the personal foul, a little over-eager on the offensive glass.
Yeah, that wasn't a good foul by Alben, but it stops the clock, so gives Coach Blair an opportunity to get Turnage back into the game. And it's still a lot of time. I mean, we see right now the Jackets have this 34-point lead, but, you know, it's some time to see if Miami can try to make a run, especially with Walker out of the game.
Turnage back in there, just 2 points today, but another double-digit rebound performance for Snoop Turnage with 10 on the afternoon. 11th straight game for Snoop in double figures in that rebound category. And she's not only been the team's leading rebounder, but she's also not the biggest starter for Georgia Tech in terms of height. You got Termes out there at 6'6". Turnage is just 6'1", and she's averaging almost 11 rebounds a game on the season.
Yeah, but it's not always about size or height. You know, she has the athleticism, the long arms in order to get deflections and get rebounds. And, you know, I always say, you know, go back to Dennis Rodman. I mean, he led the NBA in rebounding for years, and he only stood at 6'7". So, you know, rebounding is about heart. It is about some technique, having a good eye for finding the basketball and being in the right position at the right time. And Turnage does a great job. And I think we got to speak about her 7 assists this afternoon, which is a key reason that Georgia Tech has this momentum and this huge lead.
Jackets have certainly shared the basketball quite well.
They have.
An afternoon where they are blowing out Miami.
I mean, they have 19 assists on 26 made baskets. That's an incredible stat line.
And again, turnovers have been limited. That's just their 10th turnover on the day, which is much improved compared to the last 2 timeouts.
Yeah, it's definitely, and I'm sure Coach Blair, that was the main thing that she harped on when we spoke to her at shoot-around today, that Georgia Tech had to do a better job of taking care of the basketball and limiting their turnovers. And, you know, I think so far they've accomplished that.
Coach Cullip's team will be back in the ACC tournament after missing it last year in her first season. Again, both these teams will be in action on Wednesday in the first round. Game starting at 11 a.m. as Adams gets downhill.
And Miami going right back to this full court pressure. Georgia Tech doing a good job of handling the pressure and getting the ball across half court.
Turnage not only good down low, but also plenty comfortable handling the basketball from a guard perspective. Termes lines one up. Last touch by Georgia Tech, back to Miami. If Turnage does finish averaging double-digit rebounds, she'll be just the second Georgia Tech player since the turn of the century to do so. Lorella Kubai, the other, to wear white and gold and average 10-plus rebounds a game on a full season. Adams on the mid-range, hits it.
And Adams catching a little fire in this fourth, hitting the last 2 buckets for Miami.
She's into double figures with 10 on the afternoon. We mentioned part of that young nucleus. Rashea Kyle, the only player for Miami. Obviously, she's the headliner, right? Averaging a double-double, but she's the only that will be out of eligibility at the end of this season. So Miami with plenty of talent coming back. Georgia Tech and their seniors team matchup.
Yeah, I think that path that Georgia Tech has, you know, it's a good matchup. Even though they beat Stanford earlier this year, better matchup, I think, against Wake Forest. If they want to make some noise and see if they can get to that next round, that second round, and compete. Because I say it's one game at a time, and they look impressive this afternoon. The shooting is going to have to be key and limiting the turnovers. We already know they can rebound with the best of the teams in the ACC, but it's been, if they can score the ball, get around 70 points a game, hold their opponent under 60, as well as limiting turnovers.
For Georgia Tech, as the possible 11 seed, they would play the winner of this afternoon's matchup between Florida State and Wake Forest over in Winston-Salem. Jackets won at Florida State by 11 earlier this year. They lost by 1 at Wake Forest. That was their first ACC game all the way back in the middle of December. So,
and that's a tough place to play. When you have to go into Wake and play, it's tough. So to come away with a victory, and especially early in the ACC or early in ACC play, that was huge for Georgia Tech. But this afternoon, the momentum that they're showing, the capability, they have a possibility of making a little noise in that tournament.
Blazic 3 cuts it down to a 28-point lead as Alben goes straight to the rim, gets the roll with the left.
And you see Miami just frustrated. They got to go back to the drawing board. You know, they still have an opportunity, and even if it's not the NCAA tournament, they will definitely get a call about postseason play. Because this is a team that has improved from a season ago. You really see them starting to buy into Coach Cullip's system and have better understanding. And like you said, with the amount of youthfulness on this squad, she definitely has a team that you can see she's trying to build class by class for seasons to come.
Miami most likely getting Stanford unless a Cal upset loss against SMU later this afternoon. They played the Cardinal once. It was just a couple weeks ago. They took care of business against Stanford by 15 at home. And again, if that stays and it's the 12-13 matchup, that's an early rise on Wednesday for the 11 a.m. tip.
It is. And this wasn't an early rise game, but they did have an early shoot-around going at 7 a.m. this morning. So that could account for some of the sluggishness you're seeing from Miami. That's a tough turnaround and come back to have to play a 2 p.m. game. But that's just sometimes how the cookie crumbles in the tournament. You got to be ready for it, because if Coach Cullip wants another shoot-around, it's going to be even earlier than 7 a.m. for that 11 o'clock game on Wednesday.
Hugs all the way around as Turnage walks off the floor for probably the final time in a Georgia Tech jersey here at McCamish Pavilion. She was the first transfer to commit to new head coach Karen Blair, coming over from Florida State.
Right.
She's been a standout, especially defensively and on the rebounding side, which are the two things that every time you talk to Coach Blair, that's what she really prides this team on.
She does, and when you see the numbers that Turnage has had for the Jackets, I mean, it's impressive. She showed glimpses of it at Florida State. I think sometimes just didn't get the minutes, you know, with the likes of players that she was having to play with as her teammates for some really good Florida State teams when she was at FSU. But she has made a name for herself, especially as a rebounder, a defender, and I think as a passer, being a combination of a point forward, being able to handle the basketball and get her team within their offensive sets.
She was on a couple real standout FSU teams with the likes of Michaela Timpson and Tanaya Latson, NCAA tournament caliber teams. Adams calling out for the screen. Puts it down low and one. Okolo will go to the line for one more. One of 5 freshmen from that top 10 recruiting class for Coach Cullup.
And you said it. We talk about the youthfulness. I mean, really, Kyle being, you know, the grad transfer or grad student for this squad, but, you know, really not a lot of upperclassmen within this starting lineup. It's dominated by sophomores and freshmen. And, you know, they're still trying to learn this system, learn how to play in the ACC with the speed of the game. And it takes time, better understanding. But I think this is a Miami team that's showing a lot of promise for the future, and that a team that Coach Cullup can be proud of as she continues to build and implement her system in Miami.
I'm sure they would love to have another year with Rashea Kyle coming back, but they'll have plenty of talent to re-recruit to stay down there in South Florida at Miami. That is a thing of beauty on the spin around from Foster.
Because, I mean, one of the selling points is in Miami, so who wouldn't want to live in Miami for 4 or 5 years to play basketball? It's beautiful. It's
a beautiful day here in Atlanta, but it might be even nicer right now in South Florida. It is always nice down there. Maya Kone with her first bucket of the game. Alben still out there, putting in the hard work as Talayah Walker has come back into the game for the final 2 minutes.
Substitution timeout.
Whistle just to get a sub in for Georgia Tech. And here comes Erica Moon and Kat Alben coming out on her senior day as well.
And they deserve that applause. You want to see it, you know, to get the notoriety based on all the hard work they've put in all season. And then the willingness to commit, to transfer, to come to another school, to play in front of your home crowd for 3 of these seniors, and, you know, to really, you know, put in the work to perform well and to compete in your season. You got to applaud that.
Not much sweeter of a way to go out here at McCamish Pavilion.
Right.
Downhill
go out
for
and win.
Walker, and she got fouled.
She's back in the game. She had to let the seniors out. She sat most of the fourth, still at that 31, but she's about to pad those stats and add some points if she can knock down these free throws.
Georgia Tech only has an 8-player rotation, so if you wanted to get the curtain call for all 3 seniors, Talayah Walker was going to have to go back into the game. And now with 2 free throws, she could equal a career high. She got the first. Talayah Walker put up 33 against Notre Dame in early January. Trying to match it here. She got it.
But you got to talk about it. 31 in 3 quarters. And that's super impressive. If she played a full fourth, I'm sure she would have gotten close to or over 40. But she was dominant from the start ever since she dropped 18 in that first quarter of this game.
I would say the 18 in the first quarter was the most impressive part of it. And again, we talk about with Talayah Walker, one of the most impressive things is, and it's the same with Hidalgo at Notre Dame and other places, but Georgia Tech really doesn't have a go-to second scorer. She is the option.
Sure.
So
it's a lot on her plate, but that's on Coach Blair in the offseason, you know, with recruiting. She's had a full season to recruit. So I'm sure she and her staff have been working to bring some more talent to complement a Talayah Walker. And then it's going to be another battle when you have talent like this to maintain and keep talent at your school. So, you know, I know Coach Blair has a lot on her plate, and it's going to help if she can keep Talayah Walker here for a couple more seasons.
Walker tries to get on the offensive glass. It goes back to Miami. I'm sure that will be assignment 1A in the offseason. Keep Talayah Walker on the flats.
Yeah, especially when she's been putting up numbers like she's done in her sophomore season.
Kone off the mark on the last chance for Miami. And Erica Moon runs out the clock here on senior day. A wire-to-wire win. Georgia Tech dominant. And winners by 30 over Miami as Talayah Walker matches her career high with 33 points.
Yeah.